The Twitter Files, part 76, 77. I don't know. We lost count. Let's talk about that.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show.
Well, happy Tuesday there, folks. Brian Nichols here on The Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host. Thank you for joining us live from our Stratus IP studios here in lovely Eastern Indiana. Don't let cyber attacks or outdated business technology put your company at risk. Learn more at briannicholsshow.com/Stratus IP. All right, Twitter Files. Yeah, I lost count because it seems like every other day we're having a new release of files, but every new release of files, tongue-in-cheek aside, yes, is important. And a lot of really important stuff coming out in terms of the details between the Twitter of yesteryear, not even yesteryear, yestermonth, and the FBI. And to talk about some of those inner workings behind the scenes, joining us once again, good friend of the show, Olivia Rondow. Welcome back to the program.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Olivia. Thank you for returning to the show. We have lots to talk about in the world of Elon Musk and his Twitter, but before we get there, let's do the audience a favor, and that is reintroduce yourself to the audience. We have a lot of new folks here who have joined the Brian Nichols Show over the past few months since you were last in the show, when I think we were talking about how to talk about abortion without killing one another. So a little bit different of a topic, but yeah, since we last had you in the show, you're starting a brand new podcast, Undoctrination. I mean, that's pretty darn cool. So talk to us about that and all else is happening in the world of Olivia Rondow.
Sure. Well, yeah, thank you so much for having me back. Sorry it's been so long.
You're busy.
I try. So I've been a contributor to the Foundation for Economic Education for over a year now, and we have been working on this podcast called Undoctrination, basically like indoctrination, but with a U, for several months. It's launching January 19th, and I'm so excited. My co-host is Maggie Anders, so if you don't know, check her out on Twitter, Liberty Anders. She's the best, another great contributor to Feed, really important voice for liberty. And basically, I know everyone's like, oh my God, not another like libertarian podcast, but I think it's going to be different. I really do. There's not a lot of libertarian podcasts where it's like two young 20-somethings. There's not a lot of females in the libertarian like messaging and podcasts and like show space. And I think we're going to bring something new and fresh to the table. Definitely going to be catering our show to young people, to trying to be relatable to like Gen Z, women, minorities, as well as, you know, people who already consider themselves libertarians. But we really want to reach people who may have heard of libertarianism and maybe trying to understand what it is and decide if it's for them. And also, you know, I guess for me personally, promote the message that there's no like one size fits all answer. So I know there's a lot of people like there's no true Scotsman. Like there's so many fake libertarians out there. You're not a real libertarian. I'm not a real libertarian. I'm more of a conservatarian. So I just want to let people know like that's okay. You don't have to fit into a box. I've never fit into a box. This podcast is about, you know, indoctrinating yourself, because both me and Maggie used to be like the Tumblr kids, like back in middle school, like social justice warrior. So yeah, I won't get too much into Maggie's story because it's hers as hell, but it's really funny. So you guys should really check out the podcast next month.
So talk to us about, and you're talking about some of the stuff you're doing behind the scenes with reaching out to specifically folks who aren't in the liberty movement, right, to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that we have to do better, something we're trying to do here in the show with sales, marketing, and such, is reaching out to people that maybe aren't already on board, but are in that, they're considering alternatives range, which is good because the biggest competition we're facing is status quo, people just sticking with whatever it is that they're comfortable with. So I guess when you're looking out to those folks, what are some of the main issues that you're seeing, Olivia, in terms of issues that just aren't being addressed right now by the red team or blue team that we can do a better job on, not just in terms of communicating our solutions, but actually having solutions that solve those problems?
For sure. So sometimes I even wonder myself, like, how did I even end up in this space? Because there was hardly any outreach to get people like me. And so I see there are Zoomers in the space. It's great to see other young people like in Young Americans for Liberty and FEE, you know, in these organizations. But I would say that the people that a lot of these organizations reach historically, and that's me even criticizing some of the messaging that I've put out, because I feel like a lot of it did not reach the intended audience. And maybe the problem is that a lot of people don't have Gen Z or young women or minorities in mind as their intended audience. And that's why a lot of messaging goes to boomers, who tend to be the bigger donators. So I get that for a lot of like libertarian think tanks and organizations and publishing houses, it's a business decision, but we're going to lose this country if we don't market and if we don't cater to the young people. So what I think that would, just a couple examples I think would be effective is like, you know, as a young Black woman, I feel like I was more drawn into the libertarian space a lot by people like Maj Touré, who, you know, have their slogan or organizations like Black Guns Matter, that like, it's okay. We don't have to be like colorblind. We don't have to be like the boomer Republican. It's like, oh, I don't see color. I don't care if you're black, green, purple, or white. Like, yes, like I'm glad you're not racist. Like,
boomers are so uncomfortable about talking about
so
race.
Funny though.
So
like,
funny.
it's okay. It's okay. Like, you can say black. You don't have to say like African American or people of color. Like, it goes on both sides. But yeah, like, you can provide an agenda, you can provide talking points, you can provide strategy to Black people, and you can say things like Black Guns Matter, and it's not alienating, it's not racist. You know, you can explicitly say you're trying to reach out to us, and people will respond to that. And I think people are scared of that, and they say like, look at the Democrats. Oh my God, like every time, like, it's not even really a super Democrat thing, but every time it's like Juneteenth or Black History Month or something, there's always this debate. And I don't even know like really who specifically it is, but there's always this debate. I'm not saying it's centralized in libertarian Twitter, because it's definitely more of like an overarching like Republican boomer thing. But like, why say black? Why not? Can't we just have a everyone day, everybody month, white people history month? I'm like, okay, are you guys really about black, black outreach? Are you really colorblind? Because it seems like you have issues with this. So for that, on the minority front, I think like, just be explicit, just say who you're trying to reach, come up with specific plans for specific groups of people. And I understand that libertarians have a knee-jerk reaction to collectivist thinking, and I empathize with that. But I think where the difference is in like identity politics, collectivism versus individuality, and just acknowledging that race exists and that, you know, it's a thing in our society that we should acknowledge, is like, you know, me saying I'm black or I'm pro-black or I have pro-black politics, that doesn't mean I'm a Democrat, Republican. You can't really tell necessarily where I align or what I am or what I consider myself with that statement. But saying, oh, you're black, so you have to vote Democrat, or you're black, so you have to vote libertarian, or you're black, so that's, to me, the true evil of collectivism. And so that's not what I'm about at all. And so when people, you know, on the other side say, well, like, you're stepping out of line, because of course, like, you know, I go hard on libertarians and Republicans and conservatives because I feel like I am one of you guys. So it's tough love. But of course, on the other side, I get called like coon, Uncle Tom, like you're betraying your race. So like, don't take this as me like saying, oh my God, libertarians suck at black outreach, because Democrats suck at it too. Democrats suck at it so bad. Like it's so comical. But I say I'm critical of libertarian and like, you know, liberty in general messaging because I want it to work, you know?
Oh, trust me, I know. That's what we do here. And it's an uphill battle, it feels at times. And speaking of uphill battles, talk about a segue, I know. Let's look over at our good old friend there, Elon Musk, the new CEO and owner of Twitter.com. Oh my goodness. It's been interesting to see what has transpired over the past month or so. And it's a lot of stuff that I think we all kind of, in our gut, and I mean, just by anecdotal evidence and data, we knew was happening. But now all the stuff that we said was happening, from conservative, libertarian censorship to the COVID misinformation, air quotes, being put down from the government from the top down, to now a direct channel with some funds being exchanged between Twitter and the FBI, Olivia. What's been going on in this latest dump in the Twitter files?
First of all, don't you feel so vindicated? Like, everything we've been saying is true.
Oh, all those conspiracy theorists who just ended up being turned into conspiracy truthists? I don't know. Like, what are we now? Because everything we said was right.
We're the truth tellers. I don't know what to say, but Yeah, so it's crazy. The Twitter drop I've been most paying attention to the last 24 hours is one that dropped yesterday that basically showed that $3.4 million since 2019, I believe, was shared from the FBI to Twitter for basically handling their requests. So when they said, hey, can you take down this tweet about the Hunter Biden laptop story? Can you ban this account? Can you ban this account talking about, misinformation or COVID? They were getting paid to do that with our taxpayer dollars. So it's horrible. And we've been saying this, we've been alluding to this. We have been outright calling for investigations into this for some time. And I commend Elon Musk, and it's been crazy. It's been a wild ride. He's made some other really interesting drops. Like Twitter flagging certain conservative and like right-leaning accounts and stuff like that. And it's all bad, but to me, this was probably the worst. Is the government using our stolen taxpayer dollars to censor information related to the son of a government official in order to cover up crimes. Like, that is a crime. It's a horrible crime. So yeah, I am feeling very vindicated, very validated. But the question is, will something come of this?
There we go.
Yep. So I've been like trolling the mainstream media, looking at their pages, who's talking about it. Let's see who's sharing the Twitter files. Already Bari Weiss has turned against Elon. So we know it's not like, even some of the lefty journalists who are more moderate and independent, who Elon trusted, are like, yo, you're unearthing a little bit too much here. You're flexing too much power here. And I think it's a cop out. I think it's a cop out. They don't want to acknowledge it. Yeah, it's sad. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I'm trying to come out of my black pill phase recently. I was going to say this before we went live, but I've been like, part of the reason why I've been like kind of having a rough time like this, because I'm black pilled. So I really want to believe something will come out of this. And I'm really trying to rise above and take the white pill, but we'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm going to try to remain hopeful that something will come of this. But...
I mean, and I get it, right? It's so tough when you look around, and there are so many Americans out there who not only want to be told what to do, but in many cases want to be the ones telling others what to do. And it almost goes inherently opposite to our ethos as libertarians, because we inherently believe, say it with me, folks, don't hurt people and don't take their stuff, which by their nature makes sense. And we're on board with that. But the problem is that there is a core group of other people out there who they don't care about that. Not only do they not care about that, their philosophy is to harm people and to take their stuff. And they will use government to do that. So I guess this opens up the conversation we've seen right now too. This is beyond the Twitter files, but just the general conversation between libertarians versus conservatives. And we're seeing this I think it was just over on Timcast between Michael Knowles and who was it over there? I forget who else it was over on the podcast. Was it Ian?
I have to watch that.
Luke? Yeah, but basically they were going back and forth between it was Luke, yeah. And they were going back and forth between what's the answer right now? Is it do we as a society, do we use government force when it's trying to enforce our societal good, right? In terms of when you just have the basic...
It just always corrupts.
Right, and that was the libertarian argument, but then like there's like what about the stuff you're like, but that's just like common sense. And they use the example of a little old lady, for example, I think it was getting hit by a bus or something like that, versus like giving somebody $100. Like giving somebody $100 just obviously is a better thing to do. But you would look to say like, well, how can you prevent the little old lady from getting hit by the bus? And like to do everything you can in your power to prevent that. So, and to your point though, right? It always goes down into this downward spiral, this slippery slope, right? And it is a slippery slope. I remember back in college being told the slippery slope argument wasn't real, right? That's a logical fallacy. And I don't know, 2020 through 2022.
It's so real.
Slippery slope. Oh my God.
I really hate that it's real, because I didn't like when conservatives would start to harp on gay marriage and be like, well, look, we let the gays have marriage and now there's like trans kids and drag queen children and da-da-da-da-da. And I would be like, yo, like not every gay person is like that. But then I thought about it. I was like, well, I don't think they're necessarily saying that they think every gay person is like that, because that's just a nonsensical thing to say. So anyone who's arguing in good faith would not believe that or argue that. But if you look at how fast society began to accept things that were just not acceptable 20, 30 years ago, like, I don't even know if I would be considered a conservative in the year 1990 if for believing the things that I believe, which is like, don't give your sex assignment reassignment surgery to a child. Don't strip and put on a drag show where there's money being thrown and men in thongs in front of a child. Like, to me, to that seems like common sense. It seems like common fucking sense. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that word, but it seems like common sense.
But seriously, like, why is this? Why is, and I guess, is it the Overton window has been switched so much, Olivia? Like, I look back to even when I was in college, to when I was in high school, and just the pendulum has swung so far, where what was considered just normal jokey conversation is now considered hate speech. And I mean, Mindy Kaling from The Office saying that The Office couldn't be made now because we're too sensitive, but also in a way, she's endorsing that behavior, that kind of cancel culture. And it's like, no, I can still watch The Office. We can still watch The Office and laugh. To quote Michael Scott, there is no such thing as an offensive joke. That's why it's called a joke. Like, we have to be able to get back to be a society that can laugh again. But it starts with us looking, and I think also acknowledging what just happened. Like, the gaslighting and the constant fighting back and forth. Who was it? Tim Robbins? Tim Robbins. He just came out and basically said, hey, sorry for, saying that if you didn't get vaccinated, that you're like one step to the right of Hitler. We were a little incensed and tensions were high.
I commend people like that. I commend people who are actually apologizing.
Starting the conversation, at least having some means of having at least, I'm not asking for anything of financial recourse, but at least like some societal recourse of like acknowledging.
We low-key should get reparations, though.
Well, we could go on and on. That's another podcast.
We should get COVID reparations.
that would be a whole different podcast we would do. That would definitely spark some conversation there. But seriously, like, I think we are at a point now where, back to your original point with undoctrination, but also this kind of goes hand in hand with Twitter files. Hear me out how I frame this. There are people who are now opening up to the idea and the possibility of doing things differently politically. Whether it's folks who they've experienced something over the past, name how many years, whether it's been through the COVID insanity, whether it's been through the Black Lives Matter insanity, whether it's been through, you name the social uprising and upheaval we've had over the past 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, whatever it may be, that now all of a sudden they're on board, or they're opening up a way of doing things differently. They're on board. Let's have conversations with them. But also the people who are seeing what's happening with Twitter files, and they're like, oh God, that was a dumpster fire. Now, are there folks on the left that are going to be like, yeah, this is nothing. This is a big nothing burger. But there's a lot of average people who are like, whoa, what? That's huge.
I hope so.
There are. And back to you getting away from the black pill and taking that white pill. Thank you for that. I appreciate you wanting to look at the optimistic side of things, because I think there is a chance. Because once we talk about this in sales, Olivia, once people see it, they can't unsee it. Regardless of how much they can ignore it and pretend they didn't see it, once they see it, they can't unsee it. So I think as many seeds as we can plant, as many people as we can expose truth to, we're going to have more success. Because yes, we are the truth tellers.
I'm actually in the middle of writing a piece right now, which I'll post the link and stuff when it's published, but it's about my steps to beating the black pill. And I acknowledge I'm not perfect. I go through periods of time where I'm like, I'm scrolling on Twitter, when you get to like the death scroll, where it's like, it's 1 a.m., you should be asleep, you got work in the morning, you're just online consuming all this information. It's like an overexposure to everything bad that's happening in the world, including, seeing what's behind the curtain, what's behind the smoke and mirrors in our own government. And you feel like, at least for me, I get this feeling that society is so broken and so gone and so hopeless. And I started these kind of mindful activities, like feeling grateful. I think that's the most important part, is realizing that we're living in the best time in the world and arguably the best nation in the world. For me, I as a young Black woman, I'm like, there's really no better time for me to have been alive in America than right now. So I'm like starting to feel gratitude, think about the progress we've made, recognize we still have a long way to go. And, it is what it is. You can't give up. And so I think that when you really take the Black pill, you end up giving up, and we just can't do that. We can't afford to do that.
So traditionally we do like final thoughts, but I don't know. That was a pretty good way to wrap up a final thought. I've never heard one. So I think we're going to leave the actual meat of the episode there. Olivia, thank you for joining us. And how about this? Instead, we'll go ahead and we'll direct people to where they can go ahead and find you, continue the conversation, social media, and obviously where they can go ahead and subscribe to the new podcast, Undoctrination, over from Fee.
Yay. Okay. So go follow me on Twitter at Rondolivia. That's RONDEAULIVIA. And then go to fee.org/undoctrination. It's like how you spell indoctrination, but with a U, and sign up for updates so you can get the emails and all the articles we write. And then also the YouTube channel, same name. There's nothing on it, I don't think yet, but subscribe. The first episode will be coming out January 19th.
January 19th, right around the corner. Well, folks, there you go. Go ahead. There's your call to action. And beyond that, if you could do me a favor, go ahead, give today's episode a share when you do tag yours truly and tag Olivia as well. And by the way, if you are one of the 95% of the other folks out there who are listening to us on the podcast version of the show, going to make it easy for you. Go to your podcast catcher, click. There we go. The artwork there in the Brian Nichols Show artwork will bring you over to our website where you can find today's episode 647. What? And you can also find all the transcript as well as all the show links that we mentioned here for finding Olivia as well as the new podcast. And by the way, folks, did you know that right now Candidate School is open? Yes, starting in January, Candidate School will officially be starting. So if you are running for local office, you're thinking about running for office, and you're looking for help, listen, I get it. Political consultants, Olivia mentioned this earlier, it's like an incestuous game in party politics where it's tens of thousands of dollars to get somebody to help you out. So I said, you know what? We're going to get rid of that barrier to entry. You know what we're going to do? $9.95 a month. How about that? $9.95 to learn the basics of fundraising, messaging, sales strategy for political campaigns. How do you have an effective fundraising call? How do you go ahead and build effective messaging for your voters and actually focus on the issues they care about? We're going to have elected officials who won their elections, but we're also going to have candidates who lost their elections. Because, Olivia, I believe you can learn just as much from those who lost as you do from those who won. So if you're interested, folks, for our candidate school, head over to briannicholsshow.com/candidate school. Link will be there at the top of the homepage at the website if you go that route. And then other things. One last thing, I swear, I'll shut up after this. Video version of the show. Yes, YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey, wherever it is that you go ahead and consume your video content. All I ask you do, hit that subscribe button and little notification bell so you don't miss a single time we go live 5 days a week with awesome guests like we have here with our good friend Olivia Rondow. Olivia, thank you for joining us. Any final words for the audience today?
Take the white pill.
Take the white pill. I love it. All right, Olivia, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and to you, our amazing audience at the Brian Nichols Show. This is our last interview for the holidays, and then it's just going to be a couple of one-on-one episodes for yours truly and you, the audience, talking about some sales tips and strategies. So beyond that, guests will pick up in the new year. So otherwise, please do us a favor, hit that subscribe button so you're not missing a single episode. But with that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for Olivia Rondow. We'll see you later.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.